Hi, everyone. This is the final piece that I have selected, the final selection from Led Zeppelin 1 album. And to go back and do the exploratory, detailed listen together. And I feel like it's a good time for me to show you the results of the poll that we posted on Patreon. Because, as I said, after I did the complete album listen, we would put a poll on Patreon and you could add your vote to help select which ones I should return to. Well, it just so happens that your top choices coincided with my choices for which songs to return to on this album. I don't know if it's going to continue like that down the road, but I have to say, I think you all have pretty good musical taste. This is one of 3 Led Zeppelin songs on which Page used bowed guitar. In an interview he gave to Guitar World magazine in 1993, Page stated that the song was made up of little pieces I developed when I was with the Yardbirds, as were other numbers such as Dazed and Confused. It was played live in the studio with cues and nods. This bowed guitar thing, it reminds me a bit of the stories we have of Paganini and the way in which he used the violin in a way that was perhaps unusual, unorthodox, and unexpected. He does this, he liked to use this technique of plucking with the finger that was just holding the note down. So not pizzicato here, but pizzicato in the hand that chooses the pitches, not the bow hand. And so this is kind of the reverse. Now on the guitar, of course, you're plucking all the time, but how often do you see it played with a bow? I have to say I haven't seen that done very often at all. In a contemporary review for Led Zeppelin on release, John Mendelsohn of Rolling Stone called How Many More Times the album's most representative cut. Mendelsohn complimented Page's guitar solo and Bonham's drumming, but criticized Plant's vocals, calling them strained and unconvincing. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how we feel this balances out as we go through exploring the little corners of it. I like the way they set up this little twist on the rhythm right from the start, because it's a consistent 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But instead of repeating the rhythm exactly in each bar, they've moved where, and they alternate which beat gets the triplet. Sometimes it's on beat 2, like right here, and other times it's on beat 4. And we kind of alternate beat 2, beat 4, beat 2, beat 4, beat 2, beat 4, beat 2, and so on. Sets up a nice little bit of predictable unpredictability in a way, because we have to go through 2 bars to complete the pattern instead of 1 bar. You see, I'm singing if it were 1 bar. And it's interesting the way the other instruments don't come in like oftentimes we hear where, okay, something is starting off the introduction. In this case, it's the drums and the bass. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-dum. And the drums, ching, 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 ching. And then, say, the guitar would come in. And then the drums would come in. And we'd be off to a running start. This time, the guitar says something, and then the drums answer, and then the guitar says something, and the drums answer. So it's like they're having a little bit of a conversation saying, all right, you go first. No, actually, you go first. No, I want you to say something. No, your turn. Back and forth, a little bit of debate happening here at the beginning. whistling frying pan. Siren.
How many more times treat me the way you wanna do?
I can't help but even after all the setup, which is so powerfully rock music oriented, when Plant comes in, how many more times treat me the way you want to do? If I weren't listening attentively to the lyrics.
How many more times treat me
Sweet
the way you wanna
Jesus. It could be a real great Negro spiritual style. How many more times, sweet Jesus, do I have to deal with whatever my problem is, right?
How many more times treat me the way you wanna do? How many more times treat me the way you wanna do? Well, I give you all my love. Please, please be true.
You know, it's interesting to me that and having read this quote now, I have this in my mind, paying attention to Page's Plant's vocals, and try to understand what did Mendelssohn hear. When I say Mendelssohn, I can't help but think of Felix Mendelssohn, the classical composer. Just imagine, what if Mendelssohn were complimenting the drums and the guitar on this kind of a funny game to play in my head. But John Mendelssohn's complimentary opinion of the drums and the guitar, but criticizing Plant's vocals as being strained and unconvincing. I can't hear that at the beginning. It's in my mind to pay attention to as we continue and see what's my opinion. But at the opening, I can't help but think of some of the really painful Negro spirituals, like, you know, They Took My Child, or something like that, which are just so heartbreaking and tragic and painful to listen to. Well, it's an interesting concert to listen to. Kathleen Battle and Jesse Norman, they did a whole program once upon a time in Carnegie Hall of Negro spirituals, and the singing is incredible. It's interesting to hear them set in that operatic classical style, at the same time staying rooted in the traditional style of spirituals. But I remember the first time I listened to that concert. Oh man, some of it was so depressing. So depressing. I couldn't listen to it all in one go. I had to stop and take breaks. And when Plant comes in here, how many more times treat me the way you want to do? I hear such pain and sorrow and agony, and it's like this weight of trauma that seems to be carried through it's what I'm saying is this is so much coming out of the blues rock style. And that's what I'm becoming more and more aware of the more I listen and immerse myself in and focus on Led Zeppelin's music, is how deeply rooted in the blues rock style, which had as its origins the American Negro spirituals traditions. So the heritage is there. And I think it's incredible how Plant is able to channel that same kind of depth of emotion and explore it and express it and take it places that maybe we didn't even think of going. Just in the first few lines of this. Of course, so far we've just had this opening riff. Bum bum ba dum bum 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 dee dee dum. The drumming is great, the guitar is great, all of that's good, but we haven't really gotten into the meat of what they're doing with that. So I have to say, at the beginning, I find Plant's delivery more impressive than the rest of the band. The rest of the band is great, but somehow Plant comes in and takes this to a whole new level. Let's see how I think of it as we continue. Nice little interruption there. Extra drumming there. I like this moment where he's singing rings and the drums move to, I guess it's the cymbals, just at the same moment, and it gives this really rough ring to that note. I give you all I've got to give. Rings, pearls, and all. Pearls! I got to get you together, baby. I'm sure you're gonna Suddenly we think we can breathe for a minute. Everything just and everything just pauses. But not for long. Drums and Plant, here we come. I have to say, it's a beautiful guitar sound. There are things about this guitar solo that make me think back to my first experience listening to Firth of Fifth. That was the first moment that I really started to love the expressive qualities of the guitar. And I have to say that this is somehow sending me back to that guitar solo. I don't know if it's the tone or maybe it's the pacing of it, but it's not the same, but it also has the same kind of beauty and color and depth as with Queen, you know, and the guitar in there is just so colorful and fantastic. And this, I think, is one of the things that I am really pleased that I've learned the guitar can do, actually, is this beautiful. Is it a clarinet? Is it a violin? Is it an oboe? It has qualities of each one of those. And because it can flow from one to the other sonically so smoothly. It's as if it's all three at once and more. And somehow this solo takes me back to those beautiful things about the guitar that I have learned to love. Nice improvisatory feel. It almost be bird calls or something. Chick, 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 the drums underneath. Isn't that cool? You recognize where that rhythm is coming from? He threw it in there just so sneakily. Right? Listen again. Bumpity, bumpity, bump. Ravel's Bolero shows up again. I mean, I can't blame everyone for it. And I still have to laugh at the fact that Ravel said that was the most unmusical composition that he ever created. And he really hated the fact that it became so popular. But there is something incredibly compelling about it. And, well, speak of coming up with a great riff. Maybe Ravel could have joined a rock band if he wanted to. I get the feeling that since he didn't like Bolero, maybe he wouldn't have loved the whole riff approach to rock music. Maybe he would have if he'd really taken the time to dig into it a bit. But here it shows up again. And I guess the thing that I think is cool here is that it's being used as the backdrop for a solo improvisation, which really, as I'm listening to the guitar, this is one of the guitar solos where I could see it actually functioning as a cadenza in a classical context much more easily than many of the guitar solos. There are elements that make me think, yeah, it could be a violin cadenza or something like that. It could. And so I get this amusement, I find this humor in the fact that Zeppelin has borrowed a rhythm from a classical composer, that Bolero was inspired by modern style music, even jazz and blues. And if you listen to it, you'll hear it. And then here it comes back again into rock music with a solo that is, again, very blues-based, but it's presented in a way that could actually fit into a classical composition in the right context. And it just illustrates the incredible opportunity and practicality of cross-pollination between genres, between traditions, between different people from completely different musical backgrounds and worlds, and the beauty that comes when we keep our ears open and lay aside our prejudices. Don't try to manufacture something artificially, because that never works. And I've heard plenty of that happening too, in the classical world, as classical musicians try to grapple with and process other styles of music. It happens, because nobody comes up with the perfect solution every time, right? But here is one of those places where it feels so natural, and at the same time, it feels like something that has crossed boundaries more than once, and could cross boundaries even more. Harmony there is beautiful. Here we go. They do this type of stuff so well too. I guess I also noticed it in Dazed and Confused. This sort of setting us out in an unknown place in the dark, and we hear things off in the distance, and it has this sort of exotic or unknown musical feel to it. You can hear some native drums off in the distance, and it's that sort of feeling. And they did it again here. I guess they like that feeling, don't they? And the way they transition back to the verse. Sudden. It's interesting to notice how much of what we're hearing is dependent on the drums in this area, because if you look at the score, that's what we have musically. And all these rests, the only other thing that's happening would be the drums. We've got this note down here, which continues forever and a day. And, these long sustained notes here. But it's very sparse, isn't it? There's hardly anything laid out here other than just mostly sustained notes. This. And you see each of those notes, it's all the same note pretty much. So what else is happening? Listen to the drums. I love that great silence. And that sort of moan you hear in the background. What is that? Notice how much of this is drums. The other stuff is just a note here, something off there. A touch of bass. This bass line here, which helps us get there.
I was a young man, I couldn't resist. Started thinking it over, just what I had missed.
And it's like Page's voice when he comes in, doesn't take the place of the drums, but it takes part of the role of the drums. Now suddenly it's not the drums, but when he sings, I was a young man. Let's see, what is he singing anyway? I was a young man, I couldn't resist. Even though it just comes tumbling out of him, as if he can't resist the expression. I was a young man, I couldn't resist. We feel within that line the rhythm inherent in the drums as well.
I was a young man, I couldn't resist. Started thinking it over, just what I had missed. Got me a girl and I kissed her and then. Whoops, oh no, what I
Whoops,
did
oh
it again.
no, I did it again.
Now I've got 10 children of my own.
And the setting of
I
this.
got another child on the way, that makes 11. But I'm in constant heaven.
The drums and the guitar. And the way it's just swirling around. It really is great.
She's all mine. I can't get through to her 'cause it doesn't permit. But I'm gonna give her everything I've got to give.
Okay, I can say that in this passage, yes, Page's voice isn't quite there enough. It's kind of lost in the mix. It's like he doesn't have the presence that he had at the beginning. Is that a problem, or does it suit the music? In a way, as I'm listening to the lyrics, it's this sort of expression of, you know, I've not really had a good focused life. I've gotten distracted with this woman, that woman. I've got 10 children, man. I've got another one on the way, and you know, this sort of, how do I get my bearings? I'm buried under this, and in that way, he is buried under the music. It's like, and the music is intensifying. Dun, 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 these wonderful triplets coming in the drums as well, and he's getting lost further and further and further behind. And even as he says, I got a little schoolgirl and she's all mine. I can't get through to her because it doesn't permit. In other words, I would like to get through, but there's stuff in the way. I'm hampered. I'm crippled. I'm hamstrung. I can't do it. And it's this frustration of other stuff out of my control that is somehow taking away from me what I want.
Can't get through to her 'cause it doesn't permit. But I'm gonna give her everything I've got to give.
Just keep going and going and going.
Oh, Rosie.
Right, here we go. Boom. And then a little extra time, a 5/4 bar. One extra beat to make that really notable.
Oh, Rosie. Oh, girl. Oh, Rosie. Oh.
Rosie must be the schoolgirl's name, right? I hear what Mendelssohn was saying about his voice feeling a bit strangled. I wouldn't say that it's his voice isn't up to it, but somehow in the recording mixing process, it just didn't come out. And as I said, we could argue that it's somehow representative of the situation he finds himself in, but I feel like it is a bit musically unbalanced, unsatisfying to listen to in that regard. So that brings up this whole question of, okay, when we are presenting a work of art, when we are creating a work of art, how much of it needs to be us acting the part and how much of it needs to be us delivering something which carries the message. And it could be some of each. It can, depending on your vision for the piece. But this is one of the cases where I hear Mendelssohn's, I understand. And yes, the drums and guitar in this section are just really interesting, engaging, and so atmospheric. They really convey a state, a space, an existence. And I guess that's what I would say is lacking in the vocal delivery. It doesn't, in this passage, doesn't have the same power in conveying something. We can apply an interpretation to what's happening here and make it fit appropriately. But that's my feelings on the matter. Okay, let's keep going.
Rosie, oh girl, oh Rosie, oh girl, steal away now, steal away.
That quotation again, coming back to this whole Negro spiritual heritage here. Steal away, steal away. It's quoting it here as a sort of, even in the same way that we know that song was used during slavery as a sort of message communicating things about escape, right? And so here, it's kind of being used in the same way. Now as a command. Oh, Rosie, Rosie, steal away, steal away. Little Robert Anthony wants to come and play. So, sneak off, get away from whoever's preventing you from having access to me, whoever's preventing me from having access to you, because let's have a little rendezvous.
Oh, Rosie,
And this sort of ominous.
oh girl, steal away now, steal away, baby.
Here come the drums.
Steal away. Little Robert Anthony wants to come and play.
Another fun interplay between the lyrics, the rhythm of the lyrics, and the drums. This bum ba da ti 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 tum ba ba bum dum da da ti 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 tum ba ba bum, right? And then when he sings Little Robert Anthony wants to come and play, listen to how the rhythm of the words coordinates with the drums.
Now, steal away, baby, steal away. Little Robert Anthony wants to come and play. Why don't you
great.
come with me, baby? Steal away. All right.
We could imagine ourselves, kind of running through the fields here. Dum, bum, bum. I like that bass coming. Da, da, dum, bum, bum, bum. And then, pew.
They call me the hunter.
Da, dum, bum, pew. Da, da, bum,
That's my
pew.
name. Call me the hunter. How I got my fame. Ain't no king can
Great triplets again. So many of you have talked about John Bonham's signature triplet drum fills, and I suddenly, as I'm listening to this first album, I suddenly recognize that's what you all are talking about. That it is his signature. He does it everywhere. And it has a very distinctive sound and feel to it. I could imagine myself, and hopefully I will find myself down the road hearing that and saying, oh, that's a real John Bonham trick, isn't it?
How I got my fame. Ain't no king can ain't no king can 'cause I got
Rather
you
anthemic
in
here.
the sight of
Emphatic.
my God.
with the original riff motif. Nice, there's that same little interruption. Here it is. We feel ourselves just strutting along, feeling so good. Nice little triplet interruption of this. But you really feel because they're emphasizing so much as 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2. It is everything here. And so when that's interrupted with a triple, it's still the same 4-beat space, but now you have 3 notes compressed into the space that 2 would normally fill. 3 beats compressed into space that 2 would normally fill. And so it gives us this feeling of, isn't it funny how to compress more into a space sometimes gives a feeling of expansion rather than compression? Notice what's happening. Dum ba da dum bum 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 dee 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 dum bum bum dee 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 dee, and it feels like time has slowed down, even though the beat pace has actually sped up. I like the way the drums are continuing that. Feels like we're putting on the brakes. Drum roll, and that is the end, ladies and gentlemen. For a piece that wanders through or travels through so many different spaces along the way, has so many different sections, it's really important to bring us back home and bring us around at the end. And that's what they've done with this final section being kind of a recap of what we heard at the beginning, musically, rhythmically, and all of that. And then this great conclusion with all of these triplets coming closer and closer together, one after the other, so that it feels like we are just coming to a grand conclusion. Then that final drum roll, or drum fill, whatever you want to call it, was just perfect. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, crash! There we go. And it really gives an impressive and satisfying feel. We feel like we've been through a journey, and we have, musically speaking. So, another great Led Zeppelin song. And, well, that is what the world first heard when Led Zeppelin introduced themselves with this album, Led Zeppelin 1. All of this great music and everything else that was on the album, too, which is also great music. And so now, what's coming next is my first listen to Led Zeppelin 2. Keep your eyes open for that. I'll see you soon.